There's a good chance you heard some news over the last couple of weeks about Thor 5. It's not something that has been effectively listed or talked about by Kevin Feige in any official capacity, but there is a Thor Love and Thunder special edition book thing. It's going to go on sale, I believe, in September, but certain excerpts have been released, and one of them is Taika Waititi describing what he would want for a Thor 5. So he says something along the lines of, we need a bigger and stronger villain for Thor 5. And like a lot of you, I said, Taika? I did not know you were on the hook for this. Yes, of course it makes sense. You know, not only did he direct Thor Ragnarok, he directed and wrote Thor Love and Thunder. He is in these movies. Like, he could be saying a lot of things in that statement. He could say, we, as in me, a member of the cast, as Korg, I expect that we're going to have a bigger, stronger bad guy to fight. Or he could be saying, we, as in me and the Thor family. Or he could be saying, we, as in the movie I plan on directing. We, the team writing and directing this movie, want him to fight a bigger and badder villain. Right? Like, those are all ways you could interpret that sentence that wouldn't be unreasonable. It is the first time we've heard about this movie in a while, though, which is strange because Thor Love and Thunder is barely a year old. It was released in July of 2022. In fact, there was a X or tweet or whatever we're calling it going around. There's a picture of the 4 most recent Marvel movies, so Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever, Quantumania, and Guardians 3, and it was, out of these 4, how would you rank them? Which one's the best? Which one's the worst? And I think the general consensus is Guardians is the best by a pretty substantial margin. Wakanda Forever is the second best, and those other 2 are in the bottom. Like, I think whenever you do rankings like that, there just need to be a little bit of like a scale in terms of like Guardians is up here at a 10, and these guys are down at the bottom, but that still makes them like 3 out of 10s. I'm not saying that's how I would rank these guys, but I am saying those rankings, they don't say a whole lot, right? Like, does the bottom one end up being the worst movie ever made? Not really. And does the top one end up being the best movie ever made? In this case, yes, but usually no. But I am a little surprised that a year out, we haven't heard very much about Thor 5. Now, yes, we are still in the middle of a writers and actors strike, so a lot of the interviews and promotion and things like that, where we would start talking about that, maybe when Marvel would make some announcements at a Comic-Con with actors on stage, those aren't happening right now. Who knows, you know, when you're watching this video, maybe that'll all be settled. Hopefully it's settled in a way that is fair to the writers and actors and everybody involved, because, you know, there's a lot of different reasons it stinks. But one thing that I noticed after Blue Beetle is, like, Zola Maritwane, you guys like that, they should be able to promote this movie and enjoy having made a good movie. And it does stink that you see these kids, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle kids, this is their first big movie and they can't go to the premiere. You know, like, small things like that do stink. Obviously, you know, people not being able to work and writers not being able to pay their rent, actors not being able to pay their rent stinks too. The whole thing stinks. So I hope it is settled in a way that is fair. Where was I going with this? Oh, right. So because of that, we haven't gotten too many new announcements about Marvel stuff. It seems like Marvel's kind of stalled, where either they're going to delay things for November, like the Marvels. I mean, it seems like the Marvels is going to come out in November now, but there was a while, maybe a month ago, where it seemed like a lot of the studios that had big November, December releases were going to push them back so that they would be able to use their stars to promote them, hopefully when the actors and writers strike ends. So, like, if they thought it would end early next year, they would push all their big releases to early next year so that they wouldn't lose money on the fact that their movie's not being promoted. I don't know where someone got this number, but I saw an executive was saying Blue Beetle suffered maybe 15% because people couldn't promote it on social media or on late night talk shows or whatever. Now, like I said, I don't know where that number comes from, but I do think there's something to it. So I understand why Marvel is kind of in a holding pattern right now. And it's not that they're not developing things in the future. It's that we're kind of frozen, and until the actors and writers strike is over, things aren't going to move forward, which is fine. Like, that one thing we've been saying for a while is they need a break, obviously under better circumstances than this, but like, a break could be good for us, the audience. And Taika's comments about Thor 5 reminded me of Chris Hemsworth's comments about Thor 4 from maybe 2 months ago. I want to say it was June, in a Variety article. Basically, Chris Hemsworth got very candid about these movies in a way that I really respect. I wish more of these guys would do this, and said basically it was a little too silly. My kids didn't like it. It was weird having my kids' friends say that they didn't really like this movie, right? Like that, and just basic stuff, the stuff that we all know that they know, but they just can't say because they have to be very positive about this. Like, on one hand, I understand that this is something you worked hard on, and you don't want to sell people, you know, like, pretend that it's everybody else's fault, or you don't want people who did enjoy the movie to feel like, oh, he's kind of abandoning us. But I also understand this, like, yeah, I don't know, my kids' friends didn't really like it. It wasn't great. I didn't really enjoy being the object of their, derision. Hemsworth also said in that interview that he was bummed that Scorsese apparently doesn't like him. Chris, if you're watching this, I don't think that's quite what he said. I do think Tarantino said that, like, there's not movie stars anymore. There's these guys. I don't think that's fully true. Like, I know, obviously, I don't think I'm smarter than Quentin Tarantino, or I know more about movies than Quentin Tarantino. But as a member of, like, the audience of these, I do think guys like Chris Hemsworth are stars and Chris Evans are stars. Like, you go see it and you think Thor the same way that you would go see a Harrison Ford movie and think Indiana Jones or Han Solo. But at the end of the day, these guys are still movie stars. I think some of the choices, like movies they've made since getting out of these big roles, some of them have not been incredible. You got your Doolittles, you got your The Gray Mans and stuff like that. But I don't think that really says anything about whether or not these actors are stars, because I do think this system is turning out a lot of new talent that are stars in the future, right? Like, I think Simu Liu is going to be a star. I think he's already a star, but I do think he's going to be able to open a movie, I don't know. That's another conversation. But anyway, Chris Hemsworth talked about this, said it was too silly. And Taika Waititi said that he wanted a more serious villain. I do think both of these comments together kind of gave people this impression that it was like, what we should have is like a proper adaptation of the God Butcher story. And I'll be first to admit, like, I think gore as a part of that movie didn't work as well as he should have. And it's hard when you're adapting something that is so recent and so specific and is so cinematic. Like the God Butcher arc from the Jason Aaron Thor run, like you look at that and you go, oh, okay, I can see how this is a movie. Like, obviously some things would have to be changed. Maybe you wouldn't do the whole 3 Thors thing, but like I can see a story like this playing out in the movie theater. And that doesn't mean that that's exactly what they have to be, but like when you start adapting it, when you start making changes and you go, oh, okay, so instead of, looking like this, gore looks like this, you do kind of look at that and go, why would we make that change? And then you can compare the two and go, oh, it might have been better if it was like this. This isn't even me doing my Monday morning quarterback kind of thing where I say this is a change they should have made. This is me examining the source material and saying it's interesting that they changed this, because when you look at it, it's like maybe that would have worked better. Anyway, I do think there are a lot of great serious Thor stories. That is one of them. The God Butcher one is probably the highest profile recent Thor story that everybody for years and years has been like, they got to make that a movie or something. Gore's got to be in one of these eventually. I remember when there were rumors that Christian Bale was going to be in this, I was like, he's a perfect Gore because he can lose a lot of weight, which he loves to do. And also, it's just the time for Gore. I was right about that, so I deserve respect and praise. But I was right about that he would be a great Gore. I think he would be a great Gore, but I was right that that was the role he was eventually going to play. But what it seems like some people want from Thor 5 is an adaptation of The God Butcher, or something like that. Some equally dramatic story. Fear itself, or War of the Realms. Not to say those are exactly the same thing, but like a big, epic, dramatic Thor story. And I think because of that, a lot of people don't want Taika Waititi to come back. Like, they're like, we want new blood, someone else to do this. I understand that impulse. And I understand this, like, idea that he is not the serious guy. He is the funny guy. He's made what I think is one of the greatest comedies of this, I don't know, century, whatever you're calling it, the 2000s plus, which is What We Do in the Shadows, which has spawned one of the funniest shows of this century, like that. So he has a real talent for comedy. And he's got a good talent for drama too, but even that, he's able to weave in comedy really brilliantly, like Jojo Rabbit. Say what you will, maybe the whole movie doesn't completely work for you, but I do think when it is trying to be funny, it is doing way better than a movie about Nazis should ever be able to be. But like, it's pretty effective. He won an Oscar, I believe. If he didn't win it, he was nominated for it. Right on screen right now and say which one happened. So that. And I've been thinking about this because I really want to write a Thor 5 pitch. Mostly because I think there's a lot of potential there. And almost like Ant-Man, this is a franchise that right now we don't expect a lot from. But I think it's very good. I guess what I want to say is we should let Taika Waititi do his thing. If he wants to do a super serious Thor movie, he should. Because Ragnarok was great, and it had plenty of seriousness, plenty of drama, all that stuff. But also, like, he made Ragnarok. Ragnarok was great. And then he made Love and Thunder, and it wasn't as good. But, like, if we could just get the Ragnarok guy back, basically, if you said, hey, we want to get the director of Thor Ragnarok to make the next Thor movie, I don't think we think, like Taika Waititi got hit on the head and forgot how to make movies or something. You just have one movie that we didn't really love. But like, I think he is in the right spot to make a very fun Thor movie if he wants to. And I just don't think we should, as fans, write that off. Say like, well, we definitely don't want that because Thor Love and Thunder was too silly. Because sure, but Ragnarok wasn't really too silly, and that was good. And Thor Love and Thunder, you know, was made during COVID. There was definitely lots of reshoots. You could see deleted scenes where like Zeus is a good guy. So it's like definitely things were changed. And I guess I think if we're going to bring Taika Waititi back, I think we should give him another chance with this humorous Thor thing. I think there's a lot of opportunities for humor in the dad Thor storyline that it seems like we're going to explore, and a lot of opportunities for humor in a Hercules-centric storyline that we're going to explore. And yes, I know a lot of people probably very excited for a darker Thor storyline, and I think there's definitely space for that. Like, I'd love to see a Beta Ray Bill show or movie or something like that, and that feels like the darkness would be definitely something that would benefit from. But I don't think we should throw out the idea of a funny Thor movie, just one that's funny in a good way, where all the jokes are good, or at least most of the jokes are good, because Chris Hemsworth is really, really funny, and Taika Waititi is funny, so I don't know. This is just me. This is just my opinion. But I really appreciate Taika Waititi, his humor, this balanced dramedy thing that he's so good at, and I hope if they make another Thor movie, that is not off the table. You may disagree. Let me know in the comments.